Yo, yo, live and direct from Los Angeles, California, more specifically, the beautiful Dream Hotel in the heart of Hollywood. I'm Chief Johnson with my partner, my dog, Malik Rashid, and our esteemed guest. This brother is legendary, man. He may not or may rebuke that, but you are a legendary human. I think educator, philanthropist, and just somebody who's just, done so many amazing things for the city. David Gross.
I'm gonna use that intro. You know how like producers have their little intro. I'm gonna use that whenever.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna have Chief's voice.
Appreciate you coming to
it,
sit
brother.
with us, man.
Respect. Thank you. Appreciate you sharing the platform. I've been watching. And it's
Appreciate
dope.
that.
Been having real conversations, man. Real conversations.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think when we set out to do this, we just, our main thing was like we just wanted to offer something different in the space for our people, and not just our people, for everybody. I think we could all sit here and share stories all day about rappers and athletes and all the cool things that we've been through, but like how are we deploying tangible tools into the community and for our people. So it's a blessing for us, man, because even as we do this, we're not even at a year yet, but we're learning so much from just sitting down with people that we respect, and everybody that's came to the table are people that we are like, we got to have this person on here. It doesn't matter about like the accolades or the followings and all those things. It's like we feel like the education and the conversation is where it's at.
From these conversations, have you guys learned things that you're able to take and actually implement in your own lives?
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Specifically for me, I think we had recently, there were two, there's been a number. I could give you a number of examples, but specifically, I think Jason Maiden for me. Yeah. The Jason was just how you should see and talk to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like the love language that you should have for yourself. And yeah, I think that was great. And then Ty,
Yeah.
Worldwide Ty manages Brent Fayez and all. Brent Fayez and all that. And he was saying, Chief had asked him about how he stays in this position of, making sure he's holding the space for the long game. And he said he realized that he wanted to live to be 80, and he wasn't in a rush. He was looking at it like that, like I'm looking at 80, maybe longer, obviously, but looking at 80, and this is how I have to like sort of, map it out. So yeah, those things, just showing yourself immense grace, but also and holding yourself accountable and all of those. So those two guys have been, those two episodes for me. Yeah, learned a lot. I've hit Jason up numerous times since we talked, and me and Ty are friends. So
Yeah.
but I've hit Jason up numerous times.
And I think that too, the community after we're done with this is just, making sure we stay in contact with each other, because I think another thing we want to do is we want to be like, how you used to see those TV shows and they had the reoccurring guest or reoccurring host. We would love to do those and break off and do other little mini series and just those kind of things. So yeah, I think all the episodes have just like touched us in many different ways. And for me, a lot of it was like parenting things and, relationship things and just changing perspective on certain things that I might have looked at in another way. So it's constantly just a growth. Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah. See? New host.
That's a really, you guys, this is like a little
It's therapeutic
self-improvement, educational therapy session for you guys. You're just sharing it with the world.
as well.
That's what's
yeah.
up.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We always say we're not like sitting here perched atop, and oh, look at us. It's like literally we are trying to, transfer information, right? Because the transfer of information is how we develop and sustain generational wealth, and not only monetary, but just, you know what I mean, information, the wealth of information that we share with each other, so things don't stop with us, they continue. So yeah.
Which I think you're a major proponent of that. You know, I think my first interactions with David were through Nipsey, rest in peace, and Vector 90. And this is years ago, you pouring into your community with a facility that, you know, was rivaling any other, you know, kind of tech and the WeWorks and all those things that are very early on. Kind of talk about like what was the introduction to you? I know real estate is a huge thing for you, but the development of Vector 90 and those educational and technological, you know, space for young adults in our neighborhoods.
Yeah. Really, it just came. It was needed. There was a need for it. You know what I mean? Coding, STEM, like there are all these buzzwords around education and skills development that were, you know, in 2015, 16 on. Black girls who code, Latinos who code, Latinas who code. And so if you keep hearing something over and over from serious people, credible people, the Bill Gateses of the world and the Mark Zuckerbergs, coding is going to be the future. You're going to get left out. I always thought it was a little bit of exaggeration. Like, I don't think everyone's going to have to code, but it's like, why wouldn't you avail yourself, our community, to that if possible? So it was, is there a way to build something and not reinvent the wheel, because there's tons of organizations that do it, but how do you make the people who need something, make them want to come and get it? And I didn't believe that if I went and did something, like, what's the hook? You know, what's really gonna, like, why not be smart about it? So you have built-in leverage. And so when I started thinking about trying to do something like that in South LA, I was like, I have to have, and it wasn't even a beeline. It wasn't even I have to have an influencer and then who's the best influencer. Just if you're tapping into the culture, you knew it would have had to be Nip if you want to do something in South LA, and especially in the Crenshaw district, which is where it was. And so I got with him and he saw it immediately. That's where his, you know, so much of his heart and his head was around leading his people in the right way. So it was kind of a no-brainer. You know what I mean? There's a real estate play behind it. Like, if you look at most office space in inner city communities, it's fucking shitty. Yeah. Maybe you have some medical offices like the dentists and stuff like that, or the dialysis centers, but you don't have real, you know, no one built Class A office space in inner cities in the past 20 years. So I was like, it's gonna be cheap. Like, we can go get, you know, office space and, you know, starting with LA, but the idea was to do it in a bunch of places. It'll be free. And I was like, we have more entrepreneurs per capita in inner cities. People have to be entrepreneurs. They don't have the same access to the you know, the affluent jobs, the elite careers. And so I was like, something like a WeWork, we can make it make sense, so it would endure, and you know, we can build out and go other places with it. So that was the high level kind of idea.
Were you always, was that kind of your background was philanthropic or?
No, not at all, man. My background was purely finance from the day I graduated college.
Where'd you go to school, if you don't mind me asking?
Cornell.
Okay.
And so,
Ivy League.
yeah, and it was a blessing. I was first person in my family to go to college, and it just happened to be a good one. And I learned so much more at school. The stuff in books aside, right? You forget a lot of the shit in books, and you have access to a computer, you can always go look. But I just was exposed to the world for the first time. I didn't even know anything about the career paths that I would end up pursuing. But I learned from other students, I learned from professors. So college really was that window into the world for me. And so I studied economics. And the first day I stepped out of school, I was pursuing a career in finance. So it was definitely, the Vector 90 thing was coming back to LA. I came back to LA for a role in finance, and entertainment in finance. But I was like, I'm not going to come back and not try to contribute something to, you know, the place where I used to lay my head.
In layman terms, for someone who just doesn't know, or a young person coming up, when you say I'm pursuing I'm pursuing a career in finance, right? What does that look like? Because a lot of times names are just thrown at people like Buffett or, you know, Robert Smith, but what does it actually look like? What is a career in
And honestly,
finance
don't
look
even
like?
frame it as in layman's, because like, as in layman's terms, because that's almost meaningless if I just say a career in finance. It means nothing. That's so broad and that's so vague. And the thing is, when I went to school, I just wanted to be a businessman. I had no idea what that meant.
Okay.
I was thinking carrying a cell phone, like, and those the big cell phones back in the day. Like,
You had the brick joint.
the brick, right? Cell phone, a briefcase, and they make a lot of money. But and that was,
And they travel.
and they travel,
That's
right?
what I was
Wear
like,
suits. And it's so funny. That's what I wanted to do. But I wanted to wear a suit every day. It's be really hard for you to make me wear a suit every day now. But that's what I wanted, because that's what I saw on TV. So I had a super unsophisticated, very naive view of the world. And this is going into an Ivy League school. And even the first year there, and I learned, I actually learned from other kids whose parents worked on Wall Street that they were brokers, they were investment bankers, they were investment advisors. There's 100 different career paths in finance. And so people use that ambiguity sometimes to like get over on people, and people use the terminology to create kind of myth bubbles around shit. Because if you break things down to like just what they are, none of it's that complicated. So I didn't even know what investment banking was when I got to Cornell, but I learned that what I wanted to do was to be a trader, which is a form of investment banking. And so that was the first job that I had, or the second job that I had. But there's just a job in finance is almost meaningless. And that's not to like, even people in finance, if someone says, yeah, I work in finance, they're gonna kind of look, yeah, what does he really do? Because why did you say what you do if you work in finance?
Yeah. Crazy. Are you a part of the Destination Crenshaw initiative?
I'll give Nip. Nip was a big part of that. So when we first started working on Vector 90, the local councilman, Marquise Harris Dawson, who's our guy, ended up becoming a great friend to me and Nip, a supporter, an advocate for everything we were doing. He was aggressively trying to get Nip involved, to explain it to the community, to get Nip and the whole All Money and team to put their hands around it, to make sure it reflected the community, it looked and felt like the community was real. And so that's where at the very beginning of it. So I went to the first, Marquise held a little charrette, or a little community kind of meet up to have people express their views, and he had Nipsey come and talk about it. And he was like, you know, the pre-conversation was, look, Nip is happening, and I just want to make it happen in a way that the people are happy with. But if they don't engage, then they're going to be upset no matter what happens. And so, you know, he broke it down to Nip, and then Nip got involved, and he was a big champion of it. A lot of people ended up supporting it because Nip's affiliation with it.
What's your thoughts on, I don't want to say like gentrification, but how can communities develop and have beautification without, being gentrified? Because I remember when the first couple years I moved to LA, first we were living in Monrovia, and then we moved to Echo Park. And when I was living there, it was still crazy as hell, like Training Day style. But I remember they started emptying out the lake. And I was talking to my uncle, and he was like, yo, they about to gentrify that place. Yeah. Because they always say they're doing a beautification, but which means they about to kick y'all out.
Got it.
And I believe we should all live in beautiful neighborhoods. But how are you able to do that? Or can you even do that without running people that are native to that area out of that area?
So what I love about what I've seen that you guys do on this, you guys create a space for nuance and real communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
And conversation. So I think it's a very complex issue, man. I think reflexively, anyone who grew up in a low-income neighborhood, you're going to be against gentrification because it feels like, I know black people everywhere feel like things are always being taken from them and they're always being encroached upon by someone. And so it's investors, developers, the money class, and then there's this weird thing in certain communities like in LA, it's Latinos who are also living in, you know, for the most part, they've been bound into South LA for the past 30 years. And so then it's this, well, we're being encroached upon by another, you know, ethnic group as well that's kind of taking over. And so it just becomes an, you know, if there's an investment in something that's to beautify or improve or bring a new service or amenity, like, wait, is it for us? Or is it laying the tracks for the people that are gonna come after us? So I don't think it's binary. I don't think it's good or bad. Part of it, you know, one of my favorite quotes is from a philosopher. I don't really love her philosophy, Ayn Rand. And she's like, you can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. So, I mean, there's shit happening around you.
Yeah.
Like, all the time. And if something's happening around you and there's a train coming towards you, that's reality.
Yeah.
You can ignore it.
You don't get hit by it.
But if it rolls over your car and it rolls over the fence to your house, and then at some point it's like rolling over you, you can't ignore what just happened. Your car got destroyed, your front yard got crushed, and then you got killed.
Yeah.
Those are the consequences of ignoring reality. So some stuff you can just see from a mile away, like South LA. It's not really South LA. That used to be, South Central used to be a pejorative term because it was a mostly black community, and it was coded like, yeah, stay away from that shit. Like, we're not gonna invest in it. If you live in Beverly Hills or Santa Monica, you don't gotta go there. We're gonna call that South Central. If you look at a map, it's really the heart of LA. It's central. It's close to the airport. It's close to the west side of the water. It's close to downtown. Mm-hmm. It's surrounded by, you know, the main arteries to get anywhere. It's some of the best real estate in one of the best real estate markets in the world. So that's the reality of it. And now that the things that we want to get rid of in our community, so like the drug and gang shit from the 90s, still a true legitimate gang culture in LA.
Yeah.
But it's not what it was in the 90s. And definitely the drug element isn't the same, and the level of violence isn't the same. So a lot of the neighborhoods have already changed. Like, one, South LA is mostly Hispanic now. That's a fact. But there are more and more people who are, you go to View Park, Windsor Hills, you go to Ladera, it's very diverse because people saw it's affordable real estate, it's accessible to everywhere, the housing stock is great. That's reality. There's a core group of people who rightfully so are like, hey, this was our shit. We should stand on this. We should fight for it, right? We should make sure we're included in this new future. How could any of us be against that sentiment?
Yeah.
How could me, you, or you be against that sentiment? Let's stand on it, but not stand on it to the point where we're just oblivious or not participating in the changes that are coming and that are happening, because the shit is coming. So it's like, we can do nothing, or we can figure out a way like, hey, let's piece up.
Yeah.
Let's buy something.
Yeah.
Or Brother Chase opened a dope coffee shop.
Yeah.
That's now expanded to downtown as well, and he has a food truck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Chase is somebody who, he will preach you a sermon on gentrification, but he went and did something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He went and did something to build something dope. Like in that little strip in Lamert, people are doing that.
Yeah.
The next phase is I'm talking more than this on this one question than probably should have.
Please.
But one of the trippiest things to me when we first were talking about doing Vector 90, and we started talking to people and letting them know what we were going to do, everyone was like, well, you got to make the rounds and go talk to this list of people in the community and get their buy-in. And maybe at the time, because I was coming from New York, finance, Wall Street background, and Nip, the way him and his family and his team moved, they never asked anybody for anything. They always did the shit their own. And I was just like, why? Why would we go, like, nobody made the liquor store tap in. Mm-hmm. Nobody made McDonald's or the fried chicken place tap in. we're doing something that's only supposed to be constructive, and everybody wants to touch it or put their hands on it or give us their view of. And I was like, that's limiting. Like, people don't want to do that shit all the time. But I understood. But I was like, nah, we're just gonna do it because we're not asking for anything. You know what I mean? I've evolved because, you know, over the past 8 years that I've been back out here, like, I felt you can't afford. Like, if you were a kid who grew up in South LA, you went away, you wanted to come back and buy a place, you fucking can't. It's hard for anyone to afford it.
Yeah.
There's like 6 neighborhoods in South LA that on average $1 million single family home neighborhoods now.
Yeah.
That's a tough nut for anybody. You know what I mean? And so when you get that, it's like, damn, like, once the last generation of grandmothers and grandfathers sell their houses and move down south, it's not going to be black anymore. Actually, the Crenshaw district is the last majority black neighborhood in South LA. And that's crazy because 35 years ago, South LA was majority black. And so in half a lifetime, less than half a lifetime, that's changed. So I don't know, the people, the team filming this, they're like, where did he end on gentrification? Is he for it or against it? I'm against not making a way for people who've been somewhere to stay there. So I think there has to be a mix of, you know, governmental solutions and initiatives. So whether that's, you know, zero down payment programs for housing, whether it's coming up with funds, like literally setting up pools of money for people to tap into for their down payment. There should be pathways because there's a whole deeper history of housing in this country. One book, I don't know if you guys do books in your show notes. There's a book called The Color of Law. And that's it's written by a Jewish professor from Yale or Princeton University. Read that book. It is the biggest, like, in terms of advocacy for reparations, even though he doesn't address reparations in it. If you read that book, you'd be like, fuck that. Everybody should get a piece of something. Yeah. Because
you said it's called what again?
The Color of Law.
The Color of Law.
Yeah,
okay.
And it's basically about, like, none of the things that we see in black neighborhoods was just a natural evolution of choice and patterns and behavior by black people. It was kind of a meta level, like, series of laws, practices, public and private discrimination, but like executed with intent and design. And it's incredible. Like, it's through the 60s and 70s. It's one of the most amazing, because it's not written by a wild-eyed radical, like, all unhidden history.
Steve.
Yeah.
No.
After I read it, I bought like 30 copies of it, and I was giving it out to motherfuckers like, you gotta read this, you gotta read this. It's gonna radicalize you.
Man. Is that why, I mean, I don't know if you still do, but I remember you had the buyback.
Yeah, so it's a mantra, and it's a belief, and I'll always be executing and running that play. Like right now, one of the projects that's live and that I'm excited about in LA is this boxing gym in South LA. Me and D Smoke, G Perico, Big Boy, a few other people. Like, I think it's going to be a model of how you can do something that's dope and cool that you actually like. Like, we're gonna all patronize the gym and use it, but then creating a new economy in that neighborhood. So that's an actual project that's moving, excited about. Scaling investment in inner city communities during a pandemic and through a pandemic, like, probably not the best time to launch, but I'll always be tinkering with that idea and trying to figure it out. Like, the whole idea behind the fund, and this goes back to the gentrification piece. So we came up with the idea for that fund because we were trying to buy the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall. And so we're like, we want everybody who lives in or around South LA. I can't stop the price increases in South LA. So the fact that homes are averaging $1 million per door now, can't change that. but giving people the ability to own a small piece of something that's, the physical environment is kind of the bridge between past and present. That mall will be there. The new iteration of it will be there when I'm 70 or 80, right? And it'll be people who are making decisions right now about it who don't even live in the neighborhood. And that's most of the real estate you see in black and brown communities. And so the idea was we're gonna go after this mall, and whether you used to live in South LA and you move to the IE or to Vegas or whatever, we're gonna give you the chance to own part of this one thing that's a beacon and that's resonant and meaningful. And obviously it didn't work out. And one of the reasons it didn't work out, we actually fought with other black groups who were like anti-everything. But again, I have to make space for their views on what gentrification is and what ownership should look like.
How disappointing was that for you when you knew that your opposition,
We had ops all around, but that was particularly harmful. That was
harmful or hurtful?
both.
Okay.
It was harmful to the process, and because it was like, well, shit, is this person going to have the community support if there are people in the community saying, whatever, like his partner was a gangbanger and he was gone from LA for 20 plus years, so he doesn't really represent the community. Those things factored in.
Yeah.
And it was hurtful too. It was hurtful because we had a real opportunity to buy it.
Yeah.
And the typical things that stop movements like this are people say, well, they don't really have the money. Okay, if they had the money, they don't have the capability. But we had both. We had the money, we had the capability. And yeah, it was a gut punch for me. It was probably the biggest professional loss or hurt I'd ever felt at the time.
I'm a huge sports fan. I think all of us sitting here are, and we're gonna return because we're gonna talk about the boxing gym.
Yep.
One, are you an advocate? Are you a boxing fan?
I love boxing.
He boxes.
I listen, hoops, boxing, MMA.
Let me tell you, this brother took me to my first courtside game.
Okay.
I chopped it up with Denzel Washington. I was like, I still talk about it to this day. Like, one of the greatest experiences I ever had, man. Like, I know everybody's not going to be able to do that courtside, but, for somebody to, welcome me into that world, it was a special moment, man. And so I know he fights, he boxes, MMA. He's a huge sports fan, man. But
Okay.
yeah.
And really, it's the Lakers above everything else for me.
Okay.
Across all sports. But then after that, the NBA, and then huge boxing fan. This Spence Crawford fight.
Ooh.
We up in there.
Ooh.
I'm going to that one.
Yeah, we been talking about we gotta go to that one too.
What you think?
Oh, Spence.
Really?
Spence, yeah, for sure.
You said for sure.
For sure. Spence is a dog.
For sure.
Yep. I think Bud waited too long. Bud should have made the fight 3 years ago, then it probably would have been a trilogy. Because I think Spence is going to give it to him, and it's not even going to be something where we're going to want to see it run back.
Ooh wee.
And I'm saying it in the podcast, so I'm not going to be able to hide from it. I'm going to have to stand on it.
I gotta stand.
Bud, your guy.
Listen.
Actually, I think most people are probably, most pundits, I think they probably go with Bud, I think.
Listen. I've watched Spence. You know what I mean, and I feel so. The Kell Brooks fight. I saw him fight someone that was drained, that was fighting at a weight he shouldn't have fought at, right? Then, because there's always this thing of like Bud hasn't fought anybody, you know what I mean? But when Spence has fought whatever opposition you want to say, like even Danny Garcia, right?
Garcia, yep.
I like Danny Garcia, but if you know boxing, we know elite level fighters, right? I think there's only three, with the two other fighters outside of Bud that have the IQ in boxing that he has, and that's Shakur Stevens, and now we see that Gervonta has that.
Yeah, Tank is people like to say he's just not. No, Tank is a boxer.
Tank is a
Tank is a
tactician.
boxer. Yep.
He's a real, you know what I mean? If you look at his foot placement, you know what I mean, you see how he negated
pace, everything.
the hook with Homeboy. And I thought that would actually be a harder fight just because Homeboy was naturally the bigger guy.
Him and Garcia, I never believed that was the hype train. I never believed that.
I just thought it would be difficult from the standpoint of just if dude did what he was supposed to do, meaning he didn't fight short.
He did not. You know what? He got hype after that first round because like he was active.
Yeah.
People were amping
But
him
when
up,
he took that
he forgot
shot,
his whole game plan.
And that's what
he took that shot. He took that shot, you know. But and that's a lot like if you ever saw the first De La Hoya Mayweather, well, only Mayweather De La Hoya fight, is like, I'm gonna be honest. Even then, like, I thought
I was at that fight.
De La Hoya
watching it. I thought De La Hoya won the fight because when you're in the crowd, like he was just so much more active, and you don't see what's landing or not landing. I actually thought De La Hoya definitely could have won the fight, and in the crowd.
But he went away from the jab.
Yeah.
He went away from
but
the
watching
jab.
it after, I was like, yeah, Floyd won. But in the crowd, like he was just so active.
Yeah.
I again, Spence, amazing fighter.
The thing that Spence is going to do that could work against him, he will fight the other fighter style. And I don't know if that's his, like, I'm going to show you, like, how bad a motherfucker I am.
This is the thing. He has the same problem a Sugar Ray Leonard had, right? Those kind of guys, De La Hoya, they are Ryan Garcia, right? Like, people think I'm too pretty. People don't think I'm going to get dirty.
Yeah.
People don't think I'm going to engage. You're a fighter. They're going to engage.
Yeah.
When he engages, it's over.
So that is his weakness in this fight.
And he's going to get walked down. He's going to walk him down. I think like people think it's going to be this whole long thing. It's not going to be. There's too much.
So what are you saying?
There's too much real animosity.
Yeah.
There's real animosity.
You saying Bud's going to knock him out? And
Bud stops him inside of 9 rounds. He stops him. He walks him down. Your man don't have nothing for him. He don't have nothing to keep him off of him.
So we feel the same, just opposite sides. I think he's going, except I'm giving Bud the respect to say he's not going to knock Bud out.
Decision?
It's everything but. But I don't think it's going to be a fight we want to see twice.
We're going to see.
We're going to see. We all going to be
We're going to do part 2 that week.
See. Yeah, we should talk that week. We should all be in Vegas, sit somewhere.
We are. We will.
Okay.
Actually, I would love to do a boxing pod. I think there's not enough dope commentary in boxing. It's the same.
Yo, it's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's so
terrible.
biased too.
Yeah, if you watch the fights without any, you know what I'm saying, like just turn off the noise, you're like, yo.
I miss the old dudes, man. Al Burns, what was his name? Al Bernstein.
I liked Emmanuel Stewart.
Yep.
He was just real.
Yeah.
He was just real during the fight.
Okay, Jim.
Jim Lampley has been one of the worst. You know what I mean?
I like
as
Larry
far as
Merchant.
Larry Merchant.
You know who I like? Max Kellerman.
Yeah. Max likes, he loves the sport.
Wait, did you watch the Haney Lomachenko fight?
Yeah.
I thought
Lomo won.
I thought it was either a draw. I wouldn't have been mad at a draw. I think I like Devin. I get it that we go by those rules. You got to stop the champion. You got to do so much, more. But I thought Lomo won those last rounds in such a convincing fashion that kind of should have been a draw.
I've never seen somebody lose more in winning, because I don't even before this. I actually gave him more credit. I was like, people underestimate this kid. I was like, he's a boxer. He's long. He moves. His jab. So him versus Shakur, him versus Tank, he has a better chance than people think. Watching it, I'm like, he better run from Shakur for as long as fucking possible. He better do like 4 or 5 more fights and get his money. And then and I don't even know if Tank gives him a fight. Like Tank is like, bro,
He's like, I don't want to
get out of here, man. Like,
yeah, and I didn't see not one person say like, yeah, he won. if
Yeah, and
anything,
guys
people
that you
said
think would say,
either
like,
he
yo,
lost or
yeah.
there was no way it was a unanimous decision.
Even Steven Jackson was like, yo, homie lost.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a robbery like people thought. Like, because a lot of the swing rounds, just say you give him every one. Okay, that's how you win. But it wasn't a win you feel good about. Like, to clean his face, he probably
gotta run it back.
He probably got to run it back.
He gotta run it
And
back.
he got to run it back
Soon.
and do it convincingly. Because otherwise, he would have to fight. And it might be marketable. If he beats him in convincing fashion, it could get him back. We're like, okay, him versus Shakur, it's a real fight. He'd have to fight Teofimo.
Yeah.
I was just.
I think if he did that,
Yeah.
I think if he fought Teofimo and he put it on him, then
Yeah.
it
You
would
got to
be like,
walk through some more
yeah.
fire first before
Yeah.
people to be like,
Yeah, to forgive, because it was.
I'm not spending $59 to see
Nope.
him again.
Nope.
Nah, it's,
Not doing it.
we should do a version of this with him with David where he comes on and we talk.
We'll shoot it
finance
at
and
the
boxing.
spot
Yeah.
in the win.
Oh yeah, they got a spot in the win.
They got to,
They got a spot in the win.
It's gonna be the best fight in years for sure. It's on paper. It's
on
like one of the
paper.
most real fights we've seen in
Listen,
the.
I want it to be the videos that I've seen of Hearns and Hagler. I just want him to just figure it. Like, let's. That fight was like, somebody's not leaving here.
Yeah.
We gonna just do what we gonna do, and it's okay. You know what I mean?
I must say, like, boxing has definitely gained traction back. I feel like for
The best
the
fights.
past, like, 5 to 7 years, the UFC has completely dominated combat sports because the lack of, like, superstars, but the lack of people not fighting each other. And I feel like boxing has done a really good job the past 2 years. And I hope that continues, man, like, because I just love it. I love watching UFC also, too, but it's such a merry-go-round. Like, this guy's the champ, and then he gets knocked out in 7 seconds, and this guy, which is also cool. You know what I mean? You get those guys like Johnny Bones and, certain stars that just dominate, but, it's great that the sport of boxing is back to, like, an elite level.
1,000%. Because for a minute, it was like boxing was like a feeder sport to get to the MMA or something like that.
We haven't had a U.S. heavyweight champion, real heavyweight champion in a while. Like, again, no disrespect to Deontay Wilder, but it wasn't the same as when Mike was doing it. You know what I'm saying? It was just a different, or when Lennox was doing it, even though he's from the UK. It's just different. So I think
division in general.
The division in general, like the lack of
Yep.
real superstars at heavyweight. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this fight. I'm like, finally,
Yep.
like this is gonna be. I mean, I don't even want no prelims. I just want to get
Straight to it.
I want to get to it. And the MMA, what do you think about? Do you think that Bones Jones and what's his name? He just signed with another.
Yeah.
Which was said that was, what was that, just a money dispute? Like they let him, he was a champ,
with the
right? They let him
UFC.
walk
Yeah,
away?
But you know what's dope about him? In his new contract, he's making sure that whoever his opponent is, if they're getting $2 million.
Oh, for real?
Yes.
That's what's up.
They pay so bad in the UFC.
And which is what I think hurts it. That's what I think hurts the UFC.
Well, there's a guy that fought like a couple weeks ago, and he said heading to the fight, he had $6 in his name.
Damn.
He won his fight, and hopefully that changes his life a little bit. But like,
these guys are really
these guys is knocking
risking
these-
life and limb.
Bro, we haven't seen the 60, 70-year-old like UFC guys yet to see
How
how
this
bad
all
that,
gonna
you know what
turn
I mean?
out.
How bad that is.
Yeah.
But I think John Jones probably wins that. And I actually want Francis to win. I like him more. I like his personality more. But I think John Jones probably wins that.
Yeah, he's just a nightmare. He's just like 6'8", like can kick, can punch, strong, can grapple, like nightmare. But it's exciting times, and then all this bare knuckle fighting, like the slap
slapping.
contest.
What is
like,
up with
shit's
the
crazy.
slapping?
I can't even watch that. That's so brutal.
It's
to
a real
watch.
league.
Yeah.
Dana White bought that too, right?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah. The slap league.
Actually, I saw a clip the other day. It was like 8 people in the octagon. Just
Oh
like
yeah, they're
team
doing them
fighting.
tag team, like all of them fight at once.
Yeah,
You can knock your dude out and go jump somebody else on the other team.
We
It's-
getting down to barbaric, like it's
Yeah.
getting crazy. I saw the thing I just saw was for the slap boxing. It was a robot against a human,
that's crazy.
like AI. I just saw it. Like you can look it up.
Oh, that's fake.
Was it fake?
Yeah. See, AI got you.
Not AI, but did you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, is this real?
It looks real, though.
It looked real.
That's the scary part about AI.
It looked real.
Switching up, I wanted to dive in a little bit about the course you were teaching at Loyola, how that came about, what the curriculum was and what's next for that. Because again, the importance, I think over years we've seen things like at USC where they may teach a Tupac course, and they may teach, Michael Dyson teaches a course on hip hop, but talk about the differentiates of yours and how they came about and what's next for that.
For sure. So the big differentiator was, one, let me give props to the head of the marketing department at Loyola, at their business school, is a brother named Mitchell Hamilton. Dual PhD. He went to the HBCU, but I forget where he got his other degree from, but just super cool, authentic, really tapped in to the culture. So on his wrist, he has hustle and motivate and a marathon flags tattooed. So that's how heavy he is in it. And it was in real time. So he hit us up for the first time in like 2016 or 17. He wanted to have me and Nip come to campus and do something. He was like, look, what can I do? He wasn't the head of the department at the time, but he was tenured. But he was like, what can I do with the resources I have to support whatever you guys are doing in the community? And oh yeah, I'm the biggest, TMC fan in the world. And so me and Nip were, on paper, we were adjunct professors that first time. And Nip actually went to campus. We gave a kind of a TED talk. It was primarily them asking Nip questions. And then it was a real thing. Like they helped with the work product from the students for that class was working on the sponsorship decks for Vector 90. So defining target verticals and then specific companies in those verticals that we were going to go and pitch for partnerships, sponsorships, and then we were going to do the second semester. So typically they pick a company, a social impact-oriented company they partner with for a semester. But the kids were hyped because Nip Hussle, it was something real happening in LA. They got to come see the space. So we did the second semester where the students were actually going to go and make the pitches with us and for us. The second semester was when Nip passed. And so that obviously didn't materialize the way that we had planned it. And they had always been trying to get me to come back, but it was just so much going on. And there was never, like in the following year or 2 years, I wasn't in a place where I could go back and do it.
Just emotionally.
Yeah, it was just a lot.
Yeah,
to go
I get it.
teach, to go talk about, bro, like it's history. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's hard to internalize and deal with. And so I felt like it was enough time where there's always gonna be emotion connected to it, but I could break it down into something that could be taught, that could come up with a pedagogy to share what NIP was, and to address it and study him clinically. And in the ensuing years, Mitchell became the head of the department. And so basically he could greenlight anything. And he was always like, we gotta do something whenever you're ready to come back. And so I hit him up and I was like, let's do it. But to your point, someone will do a Tupac class or whoever. We were very intentional. I was very intentional because we could have done it at USC. Reached out about doing something, or someone from USC reached out. But one, it's the LMU, the loyalty to them for doing stuff with us beforehand. But LMU is part of a network of Jesuit universities, and it's like 30 of them. So by creating this curriculum, and we're still working on, we're going to do it again in the fall, but doing an actual case study that meets the business school standards, it can be taught at all 30 schools. And it won't require my presence, Mitch's presence. So it'll be, something codified into LMU or the Jesuit network's standards. So it can be taught at their business school. So it won't just be a one-off kind of fandom or vanity class that's taught by Nip's homeboy. It's something that'll be, taught at the university. And like I said, people reached out to see if we could expand outside of LMU and do other things with it.
Powerful.
What do you, and this is in your, obviously in your opinion, and you too, because you guys had a close relationship as well. What the current state of where you guys were, right, in your movement, and what he stood for, and now, a couple of years later since his passing, how do you think he would feel about the progress or lack thereof, or do you like in terms of the store moving or closing down, and are people, as when he first passed, everyone was so engaged, like, yo, let's go and buy stuff, like, let's, you know what I'm saying, we got to do what Nip does, like he taught us, you know what I mean? Do you feel as if that's still as strong?
I'll let you go answer. I'll let you respond first.
It's tough. I think about it a lot because he was such a monumental entity, you know what I mean? Like he had, his presence it was like a giant walking in the room, but also too calming, and like you felt like you met him once, you felt like you knew him forever. And I think that's irreplaceable. I think he left the correct stewards in place to carry on, but I think there's still a lack of resources. And we talked about it earlier, there's a lot of people who said they were, pouring into like funds into doing these kind of things. And so I think there's a lot of work to be done, but I think, what David's doing with the curriculum and people taking branches of those, and it's education. I think it's all through an educational lens. I don't think it's through music. I think it's all empowerment of our people, the communities, you know what I mean? So I think he'd be pleased, because obviously you can't fast track it when that person's not there to kind of lead the charge because of who he was. But I think those kind of programs and people's willingness to open their doors and be like, we want this, so that you can then teach it. Because you look at anybody, whether it's Biggie Smalls, whether it's Pac, any legend that passed away, how long it took people to, they just now did the Tupac Museum, right? Like, what, a year ago?
The crazy thing is I think Tupac's about to get a star on the Walk of Fame like next week.
And he's been gone for, decades. So, I think identifying the correct people to steward the message and allowing people to play catch up, because I think a lot of times it is people like arriving at their destination at whatever point it is, and hearing that, there's a possibility, that it is continuing, and, the Jesuit of other, being able to teach that, and possibly HBCUs. It's just access. Once people have access to be able, because no matter where you go, his name still echoes. But a kid in, Chicago, you can't go somewhere and learn about, Nipsey. There's no education he can get for him. But once you start employing those things, I think, I think it'll get there.
And if I wasn't specific enough, I think I just mean more so about the initial.
Oh, but I like his broad response. I was going to piggyback and give the broad response too. So I think there's an obvious, irreplaceable element of it. Like he was the magic, right, behind his brand, and where he was headed. Like, we're not making stuff up after the fact. His trajectory prior to him dying, like there were like 12 plays he had on the board. he was going like this. You know what I mean? And that would have, as his platform grew, he gave his platform to all the things that he cared about. The day he released, here's a crazy example that only people in music could appreciate, like how significant it was. So people have been waiting for years for him to release Victory Lap, right? Gang of mixtapes that are underground classics, but his first actual album was Victory Lap, All-Star Weekend. So he did two things on that day. He had his album release, and then he came to the Vector 90 launch. So for him he should have been on full artist mode. You know what I mean? Like all his homeboys throughout the NBA are in town. All his homeboys in music are in town. And you're dropping your first album, and everyone's waiting to see what you're gonna do for the city. But he came and spent 4 hours at, a co-working space in STEM Center. We were starting. No one else is doing that. Like most artists, they're missing half the shit they have on their calendar the day of the album release. They're gonna be off the Casamigos or something by 6, 7 p.m. and it's over. But he came and did that, and then went and did everything else. So that is how Nip conducted himself. Like it was it wasn't even work. It was a labor of love. Yeah. So I truly believe, the move to Rock Nation and the association with Jay and the proximity and the conversations they were having as he transcended to being like an internationally known superstar. Slauson and Crenshaw wouldn't have been forgotten. None of the community stuff. It just would have been, he would have poured more into it. So that's the thing. There's a loss there because they did that. Now, the second thing I'll say is, and this is unfortunate because it's when anyone passes, especially if someone passes early or young, people tend to, they get deified, like if there are good things about them, right? And there's a momentary burst in interest and people writing stories, telling things. Nip was unique or interesting when you compare to Tupac or Biggie because they had hit their, maybe not their zeniths, but they were recognized for the core thing they did. Nip was just about to get his be recognized, right? I think after he died, there's a global spotlight placed on him that I think took a lot of people by surprise. Like Staples Center, a parade around LA, through every hood, like people talking about him on the floors of Congress. People were like, what, who was this kid? And then people went and looked into him, and it was everything apart from the music. It was everything but the music that made people embrace him and be like, wow, he was something special. And then they went back and started watching his interviews and all of his clips and the things he was talking about, shit you guys talk about in here. Mindset, community, family, love, relations. I can go pick any topic. Mm-hmm. We can go and I'll give you 2 or 3 or 4 quotes from him that are like out of this world, right? So I think he might be one of the handful of people who was enhanced. Like, more people knew about him. And then what they thought of him was like, oh shit, he was really, really different. So that's only a positive. Yeah. And it hasn't waned, you know what I mean? And now to get to, I think, the core of the question you would ask, like the actual things in motion, I think the right stewards are in place. Like there's no one, just anywhere, not just in music or sports or business. Black Sam is an executor, you know what I mean? He's never going to stray from task, ever. And it's always going to be super authentic, super pure. If nothing else, you can bet that, I can bet that, you can bet that, you can stand on that. Like he's going to, so you've seen the Marathon clothing just flourish, right? And they flourish as a business as well. Now they have, a warehouse, they're doing everything in-house, taking care of it themselves. The clothing has flourished. The cultivation has flourished. The new store on Melrose, like if you go see it, it's a beautiful space. And I think once they finish eating what's on their plate, I think then it's going to be, well, shit, could there be a Marathon store somewhere else? I know when Nip was alive, people were hitting us up about, this airport. Do you want a Marathon store in LAX? What about this airport? There's a whole world of opportunities when, Sam's going to finish doing all the things he committed to doing. The documentary's focused on that. All those things are going to be high quality. So it's the quality It's the finishing things until he's executed. Everyone else in the team has kind of done their thing. All the artists that were around him. It's dope to see Jay Stone. Like, Jay Stone's put out like 5 or 6 albums, and like he's grinding his way to being like a really bankable artist. Pac-Man, all of them. They have their merch, they have their music. The families flourish. Like Lauren's killing it, and you know she's had some releases that are just doing. So anyway, I think everyone, after one of the most painful gut punches that was magnified by being LA. And let's think about what LA is. And this people, whenever I say this, people look at me funny and then they sit and think, and I'm like, damn, you're right. What is LA and who is LA? I think LA, if I had to distill it to a handful of people, it's Snoop. Right now, I'd say Magic Johnson and Big Boy, because Kobe and Nip aren't here. But I would have said Kobe, Nip, Magic, Snoop, Big Boy, maybe throw in Dot. Like if you thought about just respected, genuine, kind of above the fray, beloved people in LA, like he was really a king of LA, you know what I mean? So for his family, for his team, for his friends, to be in LA and to experience the loss and everything around it, a lot of people, that would be their reason forever, to like go into a hole and never come back out, or to just be enshrined and stuck in that place. Because that was Nipsey's, you know, whatever you were, his driver, you know, bodyguard, whatever, and you just stay in that forever. Everyone came together, did exactly what they had to do, and everyone was trying their best to like, what would Nip have done? How would he want it to be done? I saw everyone do that. And then, as time passed, and you could function without that, you know, you really hurt. That shit feels like you're being choked. Once they got past that, everyone just kind of kept going and really continued the marathon. So, at the very granular level, like the store is going to be, you know, it's going to be home to all the philanthropic pursuits that Nip would have. So it's the Neighborhood Nip Foundation. His sister Samantha had this dope organization she was running for a while, but now she's going to run that. And that's what Slauson and Crenshaw is going to be. If you drive by, you see it. It's underway right now. And I think the thing that Nip would care most about was that space that him and Sam and Adam and Fats, they all scrapped for and fought for to make it theirs. It'll forever be in his family's name. It'll always be his kids, and after that, their kids or what have you. So, no, I think, I don't even know how you put a timeline on when people are supposed to shake back from something, but 4 years out, I think, yeah, I'm happy with what I see, and I think he'd be happy.
Yeah.
That was a fucking long-winded
Nah,
answer.
I mean, and he was the proponent of, you know, he talked about brick by brick, and he was so calculated and such a visionary in the long game. Even the steps that collectively the team and all them do are in the pace that he probably would have been moving at, you know what I mean? Like he never rushed into, you know, decisions, and he was so hands-on, and it's a testament of like that whole team. That all trickled down. Like even when, you know, we first started working together, we would meet once a week at the Peninsula. Whole team would be there, and we walk down plans, and that's very rare for an artist. You know, a lot of them may join the first meeting, and you know they send a team, but he was there, and Black Sam was there, and JP was there, and the whole team, Archer was there, and it was a collective. It was never like Nipsey, like, yo, this is my thing. You know, it was never like that, and that was something I always respected about him, and just the way they moved. It was like, yes, you have this guy who's the star, he's the artist, but he never put himself above anybody else.
Nah, he always gave attribution. That's
Yeah.
that's the thing that a lot of artists don't do. You like. Actually, most artists, like they want every relationship, every conversation,
Yeah.
all the shine is just them. Like, bro, we know anybody who's intelligent has been around this shit, you can't do it all. Like it's just if you're successful in music or sports or entertainment
It's
in
all
general,
collaborative.
like just doing the thing you do, like performing and writing or whatever, that's hard. But like if you have businesses and you're moving around, like bro, we know it's a team, especially if it's looking right, if it is right. And he always gave that attribution, and like it's dope. You still see, like you talked about JP, like JP has flourished. You know what I mean? And he's still right there, and it's getting bigger and better. Same thing with Archer. So I think it's cool.
Yeah, just a testament. Couple of things before we get out of here. One, we doing this again in July in Vegas.
Let's do it.
Pre-fight week,
Let's
fight
do it.
week. We gonna sit down
Now I
again.
got somebody to chop up.
Yeah,
fight with.
yeah.
I love it.
We definitely gotta watch a game next year. You know
We
what
gotta
I mean?
get to the gym.
Yeah, the boxing gym. You know, love to come check that out. And then too, like, you know, what do you got coming up in the pipelines? You know, the next, 6 to 8, 9 months. You know, where can people, check out more about you? I think the only thing you need to add to your resume is an author, man. When's the book coming?
Eventually, man. Eventually. So right now, definitely figure out what the next iteration of my partnership with LMU, what that's going to be, because it's crazy to have the kind of buy-in and support from an institution like that to do, and obviously we're gonna see through to the finish the case study about Nip, but it's really they want to build out, really teaching about the culture and how the culture has been. I think everyone in here would appreciate the culture's been leveraged and monetized in so many different, in all walks of life, almost rarely by the people that are creating it or close people that are creating it, right? So at the corporate level or savvy individuals who maybe are outside the culture initially, who was like, yeah, there's opportunity. That culture it's fashion, fashion, drink, leisure, slang, music, and now investment, right? It's the culture drives a lot of things. And they're like, address it in the right way. You know what I mean? Address it in the way that you think, and I'm gonna pull people from the culture into it and give them a platform and a voice to come and speak and be heard and seen in a real way. We had some dope people this last semester. I think like Matt and Stack are having not even a moment. They're beyond a moment. They're just leveling up. And they came and it was impactful. The kids from EYL came and it was dope. Actually, the very first class, Sam and brought the whole team. And him and BH was telling stories. We got on camera. And like, man, you know what? I'm gonna self-edit. We're not even gonna put all this out. But it was just dope and it was profound. So definitely content. Shot a bunch of content for that. Shot a bunch of content for, pod idea I've been working on. Definitely have some real estate projects that I started over the past couple of years. I'm finishing. And it's funny, we're gonna go to that fight in Vegas. Like Vegas is a market I'm really into now. Vegas, Miami, and LA are the real estate markets I'm into. And the biggest thing that's happened for me, and I feel like for the past 20 years, I've been trying, and I'll correct myself, I'm gonna say it, I'm gonna be honest, and I'm gonna correct myself. I've been trying not to be a cliche. I've been trying to stay away from sports and entertainment as a vocation. I want it to be finance, finance and business. And then if I had friends in sports and entertainment or media and we did stuff together, cool, but I never wanted to be in it. But over the past 18 months, I've done a lot of advisory work for really successful people in entertainment, sports, and it's becoming, I'm like, shit, why was I running from this for the past 20 years? So some stuff coming down the pipe there.
Oh.
Yeah.
We love to be a part of it.
Yeah, man.
We love
Let's
to be
keep
a
the
part of
conversation.
it.
I'm gonna hold you guys to that recurring
Yeah.
conversation
Oh no,
thing.
for real. We gotta get him and Jason together.
Yeah.
Him and Jason.
Yeah, I met Jason once. I would love to connect with him. And actually, I met Ty during Grammy weekend, and I was struck by. There's so many things that we talked about. We have overlapping views, But I love. Do you talk about sports and what he's doing? Yeah.
Boxing, everything. Well,
But
he's a fan of boxing,
but the agency stuff.
Yeah, that's
yep.
my dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me give you a quick little story. He won't mind. We went to go. This is pre-pandemic. Like this is the year Joe Burrow wins the Heisman, and we go to the Alabama LSU game in where is that at? Wherever they are in Alabama. And we go to the game. So we get there the night before, fly from LA, get there the night before. And I want to go out and, I'm going to chill. I'm like, I'm going to go to this little restaurant, have a drink, just feel the vibe of the city. Because we had to stay in Birmingham. This dude was in the room studying for his master's and for his certification for one of the leagues. He was, that's it. He don't he's such a taskmaster. He's so dialed in. Yeah. And so no, he's
So
great.
when I sat down with him, we took a couple meetings together, and I was listening to him, and obviously Brent's on fire.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff around that. But in his downtime, he's running the play for the sports agency, and it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. And I was like, damn, he's a long game player. And then I didn't realize that was his thing, that he takes an unconventional and a very, long
He
approach.
played.
I didn't know. What did he play?
He played football.
Really?
Yeah.
What position?
I want to say corner
Okay, that makes sense.
or safety, and he played
Had to be
at
safety.
some school in Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ty.
So part 2 of the conversation, and actually you guys explore this, but I have mindset and the specific how people incorporate lessons from pain, loss, or failure and take that and level up from it, and whether that's a necessary part of the ultimate success we're all seeking. That's part 2 of our conversation.
There it is.
Wow.
That's
Thank you. Thank you. You asked the question at the beginning, the conversations that we've had, how many of them have been therapeutic or left us in a certain space. This is one of those. We really, I personally appreciate you taking the time today.
Nah, man, I
I'm
appreciate
looking
you guys
forward
having
to
me.
building.
And I'm gonna hold you to Vegas. We're gonna be in Vegas
Yeah,
watching.
Cool. Chief got the house out there. We're
Watching,
going to be out there.
watching Spence get on Crawford's dog ass.
Let's go.
We're gonna see it.
Let's see it.
And actually, I like Bud too. So that's how I like Bud a lot. So the fact that I think Spence is gonna drag him, that tells you what I think of Spence.
High regards.
Man, listen, I just can't let it go with that. No, real quick. I think when you have someone, it's you just said, how does failure or loss lead to the ultimate success, right? So you got a guy playing in a dice game, and he gets shot, and he literally, they said, maybe a minute later, he almost bleeds out, driving himself calmly to the hospital. And now it's 38-0 with 30 knockouts. He's from the hood. We know what his mother, you see his background. I just think that those things matter. When it comes to fisticuffs and all of that, you gotta have something to pull from. Not to say the other guy doesn't, but you got to have something to pull from. I just think at the end of the day, that's going to also come up that the other guys.
You know what? That's a cheat.
From.
So he just cheated because I don't got a Spence story to. But I'm gonna leave it here. Console yourself with this.
Console
yourself
I
with
love this.
So when Canelo and Triple G fought the third time, Triple G was washed. He was already up. But you know what he said going into the fight? He was like, "We're at the level. We've had so much success. Losses at this point can only make us better." So there you go.
There it is.
A loss can only make Bud better.
Make Earl better.
Malik Rashid, Chief Johnson, David Gross, A Sweet Life, Nuggets in 5. Let's go.